All right,
I was muted. I said, do you want to buy one? Never mind.
No. Yo, Bitcoin Magazine Happy Hour. This is where our guests show their guitars and try to sell them on camera. Y'all, I'm hyped. This was an extremely, extremely eventful week. We just grazed 58K. I'm looking at the ticker right here, and we just want to explode past it. So I think it's definitely happening during this stream, and hopefully we hit 60K soon. But until then, let's get into introductions. This is our weekly panel. We have a great lineup for you guys today. I'm CK. My job is to make sure the drinks are flowing and the conversation is as well. I'm going to pass it over down below me over to BranBTC, and he can introduce himself.
Yo, hey everybody, how's it going? It's BranBTC. We're back for another week. It has been a hectic one. I'm on the conference team, and let me say that the conference wheels are rolling at 150% right now, at least. So it's been a good week, and many more weeks great still to come. I'll pass it over to Mr. Joe Rodgers.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Glad to be here. I just want everyone to know for the record that CK has been practicing his intro so many times. It took him months to perfect that intro. So don't let him fool you. He's not that smooth. So anyway, without further ado, I'll pass it over to Ron. Say what's up. You're on mute.
You're muted, Ron.
Hello, I am Ron. I worked at one of the biggest banks for 18 years where I built analysis tools. I quit a couple of years ago, took a life sabbatical. Looking back, I view 100% of the energy that I spent there as neutral at best for society, basically adding layers of complexity to a complex, nonsensical system. I found Bitcoin in 2011. I bought one a couple years later, and I've been rabidly passionate since. It's constantly on my mind. It's nearly the only thing I want to talk about. I'm zeroing in on a Bitcoin startup that I'm not ready to talk about. In 2019, I went to a Bitcoin steak dinner in New York City. I randomly sat down next to a guy named Christian. He had a lot of energy. He opened up saying he has a theory about why shitcoins are good. So I started, looking around, maybe trying to find a different seat. But he tells me his theory, and it was good. It was unique. He had his own take. It sort of incorporated that he understood Bitcoin, and he knew it was a good and unique take. So I started listening to the POV Crypto podcast, and I've been a fanboy of CK ever since. And when I saw the invitation to do this, I jumped on it. I'm excited and honored to chat with y'all.
How much was that to get paid off to say that? My God. Okay.
Dude,
what the hell is
stats
going on?
behind everyone's back here.
It's in the invoice.
Ron, I remember that dinner. That was a good time. And thank you very much. And I think we hung out again like the next summer at BitBlock Boom too. So yeah. Dude, Bitcoin history. You got to be a part of this community. Was
that a legendary beefsteak?
Dude, that's actually where I met Josh too. It was a Pierre's steak dinner.
Nice.
Yeah, Camila, why don't you jump in? We're talking about a little bit before your Bitcoin time, but you've jumped into Bitcoin and made quite the splash yourself.
Hey guys, my name is Camila Campton. I am currently social media manager at swanbitcoin.com. And yeah, I am fairly new to the space, only since November of last year. So Thanksgiving 2020 was life-changing for me. My husband introduced me to Bitcoin, and ever since that, I've been absolutely hooked. hooked on Bitcoin Twitter and just love meeting the community and learning more about Bitcoin. So thank you for having me.
Camila, was it a Thanksgiving conversation?
You know what's funny? I knew my husband was really into Bitcoin, and I had not read the Bitcoin Standard yet. But all of the discussions that he kept having with his family were about Bitcoin, and I feel like that was more of like the orange pill for me. It just felt like a very toxic Bitcoin conversation. And I think he was just trying to convince his parents the whole time, and he ended up convincing me. And so on our on our flight back, I was like, okay, I'm reading the Bitcoin Standard. This is it. And yeah, I was hooked after that. So very
Awesome.
toxic Thanksgiving for sure, in a good way.
Let's go. Well, Thevin was on last week, and I can't imagine him being very toxic around his parents, but I'm sure he had a lot of energy that Thanksgiving, and glad to have you on board the Bitcoin train as well. Cool. Well, last but not least, let's jump over to Alex below us. Nice guitars, and welcome to the show.
Hey, what's happening, you crazy motherfuckers? Can I swear, actually? I should have asked that before.
Oh, yeah, of course. This is a drinking show. Fuck yeah.
My name is Alex Waltz. I'm drinking matcha tea because I don't drink alcohol. And yeah, I've been around since 2012. I've worked on a lot of projects. But most recently, I had an OTC desk in London, which I closed. And now I have a podcast that's called Bitcoin Reservations, where I talk a lot of shit and annoy a lot of people. So, yeah.
So real quick, Tommy in the studio, are you in the show as well, or nope? Okay, so we're skipping over Tommy. He's just chilling. All right. Well, let's just jump into it. I think the first thing that really got this bullish week started off right was Bitcoin hitting 50K over the weekend. But that was followed up by CT, which is a Bitcoin denominated fund that is backed by the richest man in Norway. Norway? Yeah, Norway. Yeah. So it's a Norwegian billionaire who's backing CT. And they put out a shareholder letter that came out on Monday. And it absolutely took the Bitcoin community and public by storm, saying some of the most eloquent, aligned with Bitcoin messages ever, coming from, quite a significant allocator. So, I mean, I'm curious who here has been really like following this. I see Camila kind of nodding here. Do you have a take on this and on the shareholder letter and CT in general?
I just felt it was completely bullish when it was like, we're going to put 100% Bitcoin in our treasury, right? And just like in his little quotes and speaks, when he was like, we're going to be what Bitcoiners say, hodlers. So it's like he understands that this is super valuable. And he's just another one of those bulls that you didn't see coming. Like I did not expect this at all. So definitely made me feel super bullish this week.
Who wants to add on?
I'm thinking, I agree. The memes were flowing throughout that letter. The primary company objectives are exciting to stack, invest, and build. So I think that's really great. And what really gets me pumped is, again, this is one dude, making things happen in Norway. And how many more of these kind of mega bulls are lurking? I got to imagine he's on Twitter somewhere lurking and poking around. But the bulls, the mega bulls are among us. And it's real exciting to think about how many more are yet to come out publicly. I'm curious, we're post Sailors Bitcoin for Corporation conference from a couple, almost a month ago, probably now. And, are we going to see, I guess the timeline that they said was probably optimistically like 90 days after you socialize it as an idea to actually being able to adopt some kind of Bitcoin standard as a corporation. So how many more of these are on the calendar for this year? This is badass. I was real excited about this letter.
Yeah, he seemed to focus on a couple topics. Well, first I thought it was interesting is it's a 23-page letter, and he really very simple language explains to his shareholders why he's doing this. In like what Warren Buffett style writing, which Warren Buffett style is like writing to his dear Aunt Sally. Apparently that's how he starts his shareholder letters, and then he erases it and says, dear shareholders. And he's focusing on the mining, or mining and microtransactions are part of the greens. So focusing specifically on green mining and startups that are involved in microtransactions. I thought it was a wonderful letter and literally sent it out to all my no coiner or questioning coiner friends.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of it was when he kind of talked about how the green mining aspect will help them kind of reach their goals towards the Paris Climate Accord. I thought that was just like the ultimate, take this to all the people who are trying to say that like Bitcoin is ruining the planet. It's like, no, this is actually going to help us accomplish most of these green energy goals we've set for ourselves. So I thought that was
He
just great.
donked right on him.
Yeah, it did. I thought that was great.
Those are the best types of dunks also, because you keep hearing all of this energy FUD around Bitcoin. And it's like, if this huge guy is actually for it and is cheering it on, like, can we just get over this energy FUD already? Because it's just so repetitive and annoying.
Totally.
I love it. I think it's helpful because the more I hear, more reps I get, the more I hear about this, and the more I get to communicate, this meme to others, the stronger I get at communicating, and combating the FUD. So I freaking love it. I think it's so badass.
Well,
Well, hey, I'll tell you this. Bitcoiners are way better at kind of like addressing the typical anti-Bitcoin talk tracks just because we're so used to it. It's like we've been sharpening our knives all throughout the bear market around every single one of these topics. And, they get floated across social media and, from any major outlet. And then you just get a slew of Bitcoiners just FUD busting every single time. It's so impressive.
Yeah, I was gonna add, like, the funny thing too is that all of this energy FUD kind of reemerged right after Tesla invested into Bitcoin, and so it's like, where's the cognitive dissonance there? That like clearly Tesla has done some research into this, and they're the biggest drivers of trying to increase renewable energy in the world, and it's like, if they are in, then clearly this is not just some emissions releasing terrible thing for the environment.
Do we want to keep talking about CT?
Hold on.
I mean,
I want to talk about that one more, the environmental impact. Bitcoiners being the crafty memers they are, a popular kind of meme that I've seen emerge here over the past week to combat this is the whole petrodollar thing. I've seen a lot of tweets about, if you actually love the planet, destroy the petrodollar, adopt Bitcoin. This will save the planet. So, fuck central banking is what I'm trying to say.
Well, so here's the difficult part about that, right? Is that the majority of people don't even know what the petrodollar is. There's a lot of people out there who, despite everything that's going on, still think that Bitcoin is, that the dollar is backed by gold. Like, there's probably still a decent percentage of the population that feels that way or thinks that way. So, talking about the petrodollar and the petrodollar, that only goes to a very select group of people, only resonates with a very select group of people. But with that being said, like, I've seen charts. It's like, the energy expenditure of the U.S. military, energy expenditure of gold, energy expenditure of Bitcoin. It is tiny, tiny, tiny compared to the outside energy expenditure.
My question is, because those charts are all over the place. Do people think that Bitcoiners just make these things up to make us look good? Like, do they think that is actually not real data? Because even if you show someone that doesn't believe in Bitcoin that chart, they're just like, oh, blah, blah, blah. It still sucks for the planet. So it's so weird to me to see like people's reaction and to not believe after we're showing you all of these articles and data that back up that Bitcoin is good for the planet, not bad for it.
I mean, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance there for sure. But again, like, guys like, like CT kind of, getting behind Bitcoin mining, we're going to see every energy facility get behind Bitcoin mining. And I mean, like Brand just said, Tesla buying Bitcoin, obviously kind of saying like, hey, this is something that we see as fitting into the ecosystem. Alex, I haven't heard from you in a minute. You want to chime in?
I didn't read the letter. First of all, I'm just looking around. It's like, I don't know what these guys are talking about. Well, I think the electricity thing is really interesting because electricity is really hard to process, right? Because you need it continuously. So if you have a power plant at the end of the city somewhere, you have to produce this continuously. But we can't store it very well because we can't store energy. That we're not good at storing it. But also we can't transport it over long periods of time. So because of this, you end up like producing excess energy. And because of this, you have to throw away a lot of excess energy. And what could use a lot of excess energy? Well, Bitcoin mining, and there's a lot of people who do this. So I think this is the most interesting thing when it comes to Bitcoin mining. A lot of people don't realize it. So yeah, and again, it's like garbage energy, and we're using it to secure the monetary network.
We're Bitcoin insiders, right? We live and breathe Bitcoin, but a lot of people who are not exposed even to Bitcoin, they've heard of it, they know it's a thing, they don't know much about it, they're not excited and are aware of why it's changing the world and a revolution. Then you hear it uses a lot, the same electricity as a country. I get it. I understand why there's alarm, and I think it's good to be sympathetic or open to hearing the concerns, but ultimately it comes back to the same challenge that Bitcoiners always have, which is even among people who own a little bit of Bitcoin more speculatively, they don't understand the sort of its reason for being and the revolution, and that we just have to keep singing it and spreading it.
My plan is to dunk on friends who are left-leaning on Facebook, who don't know what Twitter is, and tell them that they're liberal LARPs and they're posers if they keep using dollars in their wallet. It's bullshit. They can't be both. They can't have their cake and eat it too. So fuck them and their false narrative and the bullshit that they try to push on us. If they really want to be liberals and save the world, they're going to adopt Bitcoin standard ASAP. Otherwise, they're fucking LARP. And I'm going to be militant about this on Facebook. And I encourage everyone to fire back up your Facebook accounts and get back on there and get in the trenches, because I've converted at least 6 people in the past 3 months. Let's go.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I haven't used Facebook in a while. And the only time I posted something about Bitcoin, someone came back with what about Dogecoin now? And I was just like, oh man, I don't want to deal with this right now.
You have to be more toxic.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's something you challenged me on, Joe. Definitely go on Facebook and be more toxic just to see people's reactions. It's like, I don't know what type of friends I have on Facebook, really. I've abandoned that so long ago, but who knows, right?
So Camila, I have a question for you. So kind of on the topic of getting on Facebook and being toxic, you kind of made a name for yourself by being on TikTok, which is, not necessarily a place for many Bitcoin maximalists to be residing. Can you talk about your experiences spreading Bitcoin education on that platform?
Oh man, so it's definitely been interesting because, like you said, it's not the same as Bitcoin Twitter. When you go on Bitcoin Twitter, you find all the maxis there. And since I'm new, I don't have all the answers to all of the arguments. So sometimes you'll see other people go into my comments and try to defend me and defend Bitcoin, which is really awesome. On TikTok, it's not like that at all. It's I post about Bitcoin, they come back with any altcoin, Cardano, Dogecoin to the moon. And it's just trying to shut all of those comments down is definitely really hard, especially since Dogecoin was so big on TikTok. And there was a whole campaign of let's pump Doge so that it goes to the moon. And you don't see that with Bitcoin. So it's definitely a challenge to see how we can educate people there. And a lot of people think it's just really young people, and that's not the case. You see people from all different ages on this app, and a lot of people are actually jumping in here to get educated on things. So on anything that's financial advice, or just there's a lot of people that have gotten very big giving advice when they're not really supposed to give advice. So, but people trust it, which is like the weirdest thing. So it's definitely a challenge going in there, making a name and just kind of guiding people the right way. Every time someone asks me about another coin, I'm like, no, Bitcoin only, like copy paste on literally all of the comments. So it's definitely an experience to be on the app and to talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah,
It's
I
tough.
mean, yeah, I feel like Bitcoin maximalists are kind of in a bubble because they're interact with just Bitcoin maximalists, but the majority of people are so far away from like a Bitcoin mentality, right? We still have to onboard 99% of the world, so it's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah, but I have been seeing more accounts just talk about Bitcoin more, which is exciting because, but then again, it's like another reason to be bullish because we're so early. And literally, I feel like I'm one of the newest people, but it's still kind of being a pioneer for a lot of other people that maybe haven't even heard about Bitcoin. You know, so we're definitely early in this game, and we just need to educate in any way we can, get creative so that you can attract more people's attention. As long as someone gets to listen to any one of us, whether it's through TikTok videos or through podcasts, through Bitcoin Magazine, because this was one of the biggest things that actually got me hooked, even with marbles. Like, marbles is an amazing game. Yeah, I see you, Tommy. It's an amazing way to get people to onboard people to get to learn about Bitcoin. People come into these Twitch channels, they think they're just playing a game. You start talking about Satoshis, they don't even know what Satoshis are, you know? So it's just like a lot of those basic things that we need to teach people and find creative ways to get them hooked, because I got hooked and I love it. It was life-changing.
Yeah, I mean, picking up Bitcoin last November, that's like when Sailor was picking it up. So you caught that entire ride. Talking about TikTok investors, pretty interesting, right? Because yeah, there's a lot of people on there who's like, they are recognizing that dollars go down and that assets go up. So it's like on one side, I'm like cringing at TikTok investor who's like giving terrible investment advice, but at the same time, like, they're helping a lot of people get into, liquid stores of value, kind of. And like a lot of people in the world today, at least living in America, they're turning to speculation because they have no other choice. I'm curious to hear from Ron or Alex, what they think about like the current state of finance. Like it's really groundbreaking where we're at right now. Maybe let's go to Ron, because I know that you worked in kind of like the banking sector for a while.
The question is what the current state of finance and the
the clown world, speculative,
the big bubble,
TikTok. Yeah, the TikTok investor world that we live in today.
Yeah, I mean, I basically, I love listening to Lynn Alden, and I get my sort of macro view from her. It feels really hard to understand what's going on macroeconomically, because someone today was posting the Professor Column. He's kind of an anti-Bitcoiner, but what's the word? He's a I forget the word, but he was posting. Say again.
Bitcoiner.
Yeah,
he's a Bitcoin denier. You should unfollow him.
But I feel like he's got some. He's got. I can't come up with the word. I'll come up with it. So he's posting a chart of the stock market over the past 100 years. This basically the market capitalization of the stock market divided by GDP, and it's by far at an all-time high. So we're either headed for, everything. I also love listening to Peter Schiff, also another Bitcoin hater. The really smart Bitcoin haters. And we're either headed for a crash or a big inflation, right? It's kind of like the flip side of the same coin.
I would like to add something about TikTok. At first, when I saw TikTok, I was like, what the hell is this? It was annoying me for whatever reason. but I would end up spending 5 hours a day on it. And I think it's very interesting because before this year, we were like social media got to the stagnant point, right? And there's nothing new that could come across. But somehow there seems to be, the format got even shorter, right? Like it's 1 second, but the bandwidth is higher because it's a video. So pretty much that it's like exactly what you need on steroids. It's gonna stimulate every senses you have there, right? And it's functioning like a market to price in the most aggressive form of content. So I think it's interesting, and I think we're gonna see more educational content there on TikTok, because usually if you have educational content, it only has like someone just has good content, right? But they don't care about production quality or whatever. But now, because that market is so aggressive, you start getting something that has all of it. Everything is starting to be good. So I'm kind of actually, I think that's gonna be very good.
Raw.
So
I feel like.
I like that.
Hold on.
takeaway.
I gotta say this. I've been in chat rooms with Raw for over a year, and I know that I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, hates reading long articles. Like, get to the fucking point. So, like, maybe you were made for TikTok, Raw.
I have the attention span of half a fish, so
If you can't communicate in a tweet or a TikTok, GTFO.
Most of the people are like that, right? Because and now you're at everyone. I mean, there's a lot of research showing that attention span went down quite a lot, just because you're getting overstimulated and whatever. So
It's the fiat attention span.
I don't think fiat has anything to do with it. I think it's just overstimulation and excessive information, if you ask me.
So I expect you to have a TikTok account after this show.
I do, and I post there. I even follow you. I post stuff of my podcast. Yeah, I do.
Oh, dude, then I definitely need to check it out.
What about the communists? Are the communists following us if we get on TikTok? Because I'm scared of that. I totally took the
how about Clubhouse?
The Red Scare.
Yeah, I think it was, who was it that said it? Oh, someone said it. They were like, if you're scared of TikTok, but you're on Clubhouse, you're such a hypocrite. And it's so true.
That's me.
I mean, if you are on any centralized platform, you're being spied on. Okay, so unless you're hosting your own shit, like don't be a LARP, Joe Rodgers. You and your Facebook account. He's triggered.
I'm a LARP.
We kind of digressed a little bit. Next topic I wanted to talk about is, hate them or love them, PayPal is getting serious about Bitcoin. They just acquired Curve, which is a institutional custodian in the Bitcoin and crypto asset space. They are one of the biggest payment providers out there, and they are dead set on, implementing Bitcoin within their walled garden. Curious who has opinions about PayPal and, PayPal getting serious, other, let's just call them traditional finance or fintech companies getting serious about Bitcoin. Haven't heard from Bran. Bran, can I call you out here? You want to jump in, or should I pass to someone else?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the PayPal thing is just like, it's the quiet like engine that is fueling a certain swath of retail that is like, probably like a decade or two older than me, but like also younger than my parents. It's like maybe that Gen X sort of, older millennial Gen X age group that like really everyone kind of uploaded to PayPal and like uses it pretty regularly. And I feel like that, the more that they build out these kind of functionalities, the more it's really going to help spur Bitcoin adoption. And now, like, to be fair, PayPal is not Bitcoin. If you're using PayPal and thinking that you're using Bitcoin, you're not. You're using like a layer 3 at best, centralized, trusted third party, where there's security loopholes and all sorts of stuff. But, you still get to interact with this synthetic instrument that approximates Bitcoin. And by doing that, like you get to enter the digital financial system. So I think there's really cool things that they can build there. I think we're probably a couple months away from them announcing a, transact PayPal to PayPal user using Bitcoin. You can probably eventually be able to transact and have a wallet in PayPal that you'll be able to, transact other Bitcoin wallets external to PayPal. I'm sure all that's coming. So, it's just a matter of time. But I think that this is, a really big market entrant that is slowly but surely converting to, the Bitcoin standard.
Who wants to jump in? Alex.
Yeah, I actually don't know if they will do this. There's an equivalent to this in Europe called Revolut Bank. Well, they are a bank nonetheless, but they also offer legacy payment services, and they also start offering a position exposure to Bitcoin, not just exposure. And interestingly enough, they didn't convert to that, and I don't think they will. But I don't know. We're gonna have to see.
I mean,
anything else on PayPal?
I would say this is like, speculation, but also to be fair, like Bitcoin is the original PayPal vision. PayPal was created hoping to create a internet currency. And so while I would agree it's very easy for someone to jump in and like only do the bare minimum of adoption of Bitcoin, like a Robinhood where, you can buy and sell Bitcoin, but like no one even knows whether you're actually buying or selling any Bitcoin at all. That's the minimum. And Robinhood sees success from that. But I would say that PayPal's vision, at least if it's the same as what they had when they first started, should be a lot bigger than that. But we'll see. I mean, you're totally right.
Yeah, that is true.
Listen,
oh, sorry. Go on, Joe.
I was going to say, I'm not a shareholder, but I can tell you this. I use PayPal. I have for many years. I've used it a lot more in the past year. And I don't know if you have explored the app, there are so many products and services that they offer to users. And I did listen to the last earnings call because it was, had the Bitcoin or cryptocurrency element to it, which was interesting. And I'm with you, Brand. I think that they're going to continue. They're builders at heart. They continue to build. They build products and services that they have this like halo effect for a user. Once you get to be a PayPal user, it's like you just continue to adopt more and more of their services. I mean, I'm one of them myself, but I'm bullish on PayPal. I don't like the current model. I want people to be able to withdraw and participate fully in the Bitcoin economy. But I'm hopeful that they will see the way. Let's put it that way.
I was gonna say I'm hoping to see them like make some moves in Lightning because it's obvious they're gonna be like this Lightning narrative where everyone is gonna route payments. I don't think it's really realistic. And what we're gonna see is still gonna be some big companies that are gonna like do this at scale. So I just wait to see them making some moves there. That's what I would do if I would be in their shoes, right? That's their whole their thing, what they're good at, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually. Oh, I was going to say this is a really great point. They could get, a huge revenue boost if, as Lightning kind of grows, if they're a huge, hub and they've converted a bunch of Bitcoin onto the Lightning network, and they can start, taking advantage of those, what's the financial thing that Lightning announced like late last year about the
Lightning pool.
Or pool,
yeah. Yeah, the pool. So if they can take advantage of that, I mean, that's a huge opportunity for them. And it really makes a lot of sense. Ron, were you going to say something?
So I want to jump in and then I'll kick it over to Ron. So two observations here. The first one is that like we're seeing Robinhood get pushed really, really freaking hard for not offering a true Bitcoin wallet. And they have publicly stated, yes, we will allow for eventual Bitcoin wallet functionality. So we can see that the market demands it and that the market is differentiating between the services that offer a Bitcoin wallet versus the ones that want to kind of keep you in their walled garden. So I could totally see PayPal moving, kind of upgrading and getting out of just their walled garden. But on the flip side, when it comes to the Lightning point, Alex, I find that to be really interesting because guess what? Strike, which is kind of like a PayPal competitor, is actually in more countries than PayPal. And that's because they're using an open source monetary network, aka the Lightning Network. Whereas PayPal has to go through the compliance of setting up, in jurisdictions that they have legal approval for and all this stuff. And they've been at it for years. And yet Strike is in more countries, offering services to more countries. So there is an advantage on getting on the open source money network. And I think all of them will. Let's go to Ron, because again, you have this kind of like traditional finance experience. So maybe you can have some insights.
I think PayPal owns Venmo. It was founded by Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and third guy who's no one remembers his name. I think this is a legitimate second layer. I mean, it is a second layer, and they have announced that they're going to allow for withdrawals, I think. And I think this is, look, CK did a podcast with Eric Wall this week. It was a challenging Lightning Network. And to me, I want as many competitors for layer 2 as possible. And I think PayPal is an amazing one. It's got, I mean, between PayPal and Venmo, I don't know what its customer base is, but it's massive, particularly in the United States. And it's people can buy Bitcoin, and it is a scaling layer. I mean, we complain about it being sort of a PayPal database, but that's scaling. I want to see a lot of models.
See, Joe, now I started talking over people. You were worried I'm not going to do that. I want to refund Ron's idea. I think actually, yeah, when you come to think of it, every centralized service is kind of a centralized sidechain, right? So if you have like a big service that has like a lot of clients and they want to move funds from each other, like local Bitcoin used to do this, right? Or Coinbase users. I think we're going to probably see some of them having their own sidechain, because Liquid is the same thing. Liquid is like, it's a few companies, right? It's kind of centralized and you can move money between. So maybe that's actually more plausible. So I would take back my Lightning point, come to think of it.
Hey, what do you think the feasibility of some big old dumb fintech acquiring some of these really well-established Lightning node operators?
Yeah, I think that's plausible. But also, I think it's probably easier to hire talent and go at it, because they just go on GitHub, they copy this thing, and they could do it themselves. And as far as I know now, I don't think there's any like special talent in like, or any specialized knowledge in Lightning Network, right? It's not like, oh, these guys have some talent, or you have to acquire them. Like, you can figure it out yourself today, but that may change in a few years,
Well, that's the awesome thing about having like a permissionless open system over like, the walled garden that is PayPal today, is that, hey, PayPal and a lot of other like big liquidity providers will probably be the kind of driving force between Lightning liquidity. But on the flip side, like, I could still do it. I can still download the client. I can still plug into it. Camila, we haven't talked to you in a minute. I want to get your take, like PayPal, Lightning, I guess, what's your take here? It doesn't have to necessarily be on the payments front explicitly.
I just think that if these companies don't get on board, they're going to be left behind. So like I said, we're still pretty early. And the earlier that these companies start adopting, let's say, the Bitcoin standard, they're probably going to be the ones that are going to last for years and years and years. If these people don't get on board and take too long, more companies like Strike can come up. And once Bitcoin starts growing a lot more, then PayPal could disappear, in my opinion. Who's going to want to use it? So I think it's really cool for these companies to get on board, start getting educated, and just start adopting this standard, because we're talking about the future here. It's not just about the next 10 years. It's about the next 100, 200 years. So if you want to survive, you better get on it right now.
And riffing on that, PayPal just, they're dipping they're putting their toe in the water, but it would not surprise me if they if Bitcoin is what we all believe it to be, which is just superior from a fundamental incentive perspective, they're going to start going in deeper and deeper because it makes sense for them.
Totally. And, the thing that I want to riff on too is like, everyone, there was a huge narrative around Bitcoin maybe like 3 years ago that was saying Bitcoin's too expensive. You can't use it to buy a cup of coffee. This is like a big, Bitcoin Cash shill, right? And, one thing that I feel like we don't appreciate enough about PayPal is that they just demolished that argument overnight, because yes, it's synthetic Bitcoin. It's not the same thing. It's not on chain, yada, yada, yada. But PayPal is plugged into like hundreds of millions of merchants around the world. Like, I mean, it's insane. And all they have to do is flip a switch, and all of those merchants now accept Bitcoin. And the fees on them could potentially be zero, or whatever fee PayPal wants to use if they keep it within their walled garden. So just from that perspective alone, you're seeing people who don't have to touch the US dollar themselves be able to participate in e-commerce at a scale that's would rival anyone who's trying to use their dirty fiat.
So, I mean, I think I put out a tweet. It was one of my favorite tweets, but it was this tweet. It was like central bank digital currencies, and it was like Bart holding a brick over Homer's head to smash him over the head, and then Homer was retail banks, right? So you can categorize PayPal, any retail bank in here. Their governments are coming after their lunch. And then the next slide was Homer holding a book to smash over Bart's head. And it was Homer, the book was Bitcoin, and then Homer's retail banks, and then Bart is central banks. So like the idea here is that like all of these like retail payment solutions, banking solutions, like they are being attacked, and they are trying to get, they are trying to be outcompeted by central banks that are trying to issue their own currency, their own digital currencies. And they are going to, they're going to effectively force all of these payment companies to adopt Bitcoin. And even just, the monetary policies by central banks today, the Fed, they're kind of forcing these companies to find revenue elsewhere. And I feel like Square really kind of paved the way. They allowed Bitcoin buys, they allowed a full wallet functionality, and their revenues, made PayPal capitulate. They made other people like buy into it. And, I would not be surprised by the end of this year if every single commercial bank had some sort of Bitcoin service, because they need to find the revenue somewhere.
Yeah, that's another ironic thing. It's like, the inflationary system that requires, 3%, 4% growth every year for these companies that like don't have a easy innovation for this year's growth. Bitcoin can be the quick solution to, augment some growth in their revenue line. And then it's like, once you open that can of worms, you'll never go back. So there's something funny to be said there.
At this point, it's like survival of the fittest, and you're only the fittest if you have Bitcoin. If not, you're going to get destroyed.
Anthony Scaramucci said something exactly like that on the Bitcoin Magazine podcast with Matt Odell. But he pretty much was like, if you are a financial institution, if your competitors adopt Bitcoin, all of a sudden your performance is being indexed against Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin continues to do what we think it's going to do, you, if you're not participating, are effectively short Bitcoin.
Did anyone listen to the Mooch last night on Clubhouse? The dirty centralized platform that steals our information. Anyway, he was talking on there. He had a tweet yesterday. Preston Pish asked him about this. He had a tweet yesterday where he said basically that he was talking to Larry Kudlow, and Larry Kudlow said that Bitcoin is basically inevitable. And he was like, he's like, there's nothing we can do to stop it. It's gonna happen. It's gonna run its course, and we just have to, figure out how to best take advantage of it. And like, I mean, talk about just crazy bullish statements.
Who is Larry Kudlow? Just for the ignorant out there.
Yeah, I mean, he's like an economic policy advisor to Biden. Former, was he?
To Trump. To Trump.
Oh, to Trump. Yeah, to Trump. But was he also? What bank was he associated with before he got into politics? Was it?
I know he had a show on CNBC, and I think that was, but he was in prior administrations too. And he's also he has always been a hard money advocate.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And so you're saying that was his take or Scaramucci's take?
That was Larry Kudlow's take.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Very bullish.
Can someone
Joe
tell
and
me?
Tommy, stop slacking.
Oh. Can someone tell me
Camila.
the price right now? The Bitcoin price right now? Because I have so many windows
57,200.
open. Okay.
Yeah, it's not 58.
We have
I'm
some work to
disappointed.
do.
It's like crawling.
Let's get the people pumped.
Smash by.
Smash by.
Yeah, of course. We gotta pump it up. Get on Swan. Let's go.
You know, it's interesting. We did a Clubhouse room that was about doing smash buys, but it didn't have to be with Swan. It could be with like whatever platform. Just get everyone up on stage, and at 12:21 Pacific time, everyone needed to smash buy. And if you were up on stage, you were committed, and you had to show people like that you actually did it. And it only lasted like 15 minutes, but it felt like a party, and it was a lot of fun. So
Did it work? Did it move the price?
it did.
Nice.
It actually did. It went from like 50, what was it? No, it was 47,000, and it went up to like 49,000. And we were like, I guess we did that.
I just
I'm
smashed
just
by.
curious, isn't that illegal or something like that to coordinate people to buy assets like that? I'm just saying, you know.
Securities,
We're just telling
maybe.
people to buy Satoshis. It's just get some Satoshis. There's
I
only,
mean, I'm all up for the message, by the way. Don't get me wrong.
It could be for security, but no, Bitcoin is actually not regulated.
I think this is why Elon Musk likes to pump Doge, because he realized it's a loophole. It's not Bitcoin, which he's accumulating, and it's not a security, which he's already gotten messed up with for saying that he's going to take Tesla private at 420 when Tesla was like $200. So he knows that he can pump Doge. He knows that he can pump Bitcoin, and yeah, I mean, I feel like that is actually a key loophole, which will be continuously leveraged against the current system. Is, there isn't any sort of laws that prevent people from buying a bunch of Bitcoin and then pumping it. There's, that is something that's totally legal.
I think an argument towards what you just said is usually in the traditional markets, like if you do insider trading or something, they just look in the books because they're with a company and they'll be like, hey, you bought this stock before whatever. But with Bitcoin, it's kind of hard to trace. And it's like, if you do this or whatever, you can do it in some other part of the world.
What's insider trading in Bitcoin?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how do you even do that? So, yeah.
It's gonna break a bunch of things, that's for sure. All right. Speaking of Bitcoin breaking things, Bitcoin ETFs they're just constantly knocking on the door. We're seeing, the race in the US heat up. We're also seeing Canadian ETFs getting approved left and right. And guess what? Americans have access to Canadian Bitcoin ETFs. And we're also seeing a lot of things happen with GBTC and the premium following there. And maybe some collateral damage happening to BlockFi as a result of that. There's a whole lot kind of going on in the background in Bitcoin right now. Has anyone been kind of following, the ETF situation, the GBTC situation, anything that I just mentioned?
I've been paying a bit of attention to the GBTC thing. Actually, I looked at this and I've realized that what the fuck even is this GBTC thing? And first of all, why is there like a 20% premium and why is there now a discount? So that was very weird because I just didn't know what was happening. So it turns out that actually this GBTC thing, it's kind of like half an ETF. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's this weird financial instrument. So there's these people who got together and they said like, hey, look, we're going to issue some shares. All right. And if you buy these shares, you're going to have this many Bitcoins attributed to them. All right. And then why would you ever buy this? Why would you buy shares from these people? And why wouldn't you go and buy Bitcoin direct? Well, for the United States specifically, there's some tax efficiencies, right? So that would be one reason for it. And there's some institutions who just cannot buy Bitcoins directly and they need to buy it from someone else. Anyway, so these people made this product and there's something a bit sketchy about it. That's the fact that this product is a bit asymmetric. Usually, like if you take a look at the perpetual swap on BitMEX, I'm sorry if I'm boring, by the way, you should stop me. But on BitMEX, for example, we have the contract, the perpetual swap. There's a way in which it balances out if it gets out of whack, because sometimes the price either is a premium or a discount. And that is done by two ways. One, the traders arbitrage between the spot price and an exchange, meaning that if it's cheaper here, they buy a contract here and they sell on, I don't know, Kraken, whatever they want, and this puts it back. And once every 8 hours, so if the price is going up, the people who hold the long are going to pay the shorts and vice versa, which pretty much means, which again, it incentivizes you to do the opposite of the market, kind of. So that's how that works in the BitMEX contract, and that's why it was used a lot, and that's why it served a lot of purpose. Now, in the GBTC one, it's not actually how it works, because usually in an ETF, what happens? So in an ETF, you have the same thing. You have some shares, and then you have the underlying asset. So you can go and buy the shares from the ETF, and if it's trading as a premium or as a discount, you go to the people, and you can also ask them for the underlying asset that's linked to that to those shares. So you can pretty much eat up the premium. Well, you can't do that with GBTC because I think regulatory reasons or something. They just don't have this mechanism there. So the other thing, the only constraint they have is that once every 6 months, their contract expires. Anyway, that was a long rant. The point is that there's no mechanism when the price goes below. There's no mechanism to put it back in. When the price is above, people arbitrage it, and that's what we saw. And that's what exactly the BlockFi people were saying. They saw this asymmetry, and they saw there's a 20% premium. So they say, we're going to take the money from these guys, and we're just going to go in and play around here on GBTC. And now everyone caught on to that. The price is below. There's no mechanism to push it back. And they're about 1 billion or something with a position which they have to hold. So it's pretty bad, yeah. That was a long round. I'm sorry.
No, I really appreciate that. I'm still like trying to digest what you said. Because I do hear about all of these things. I do have some GBTC as well, but I haven't done my homework to see how it actually works.
Go ahead, Juan. No, go ahead.
Okay, well, we see if Bitcoin is trading at two different prices on two different exchanges, that goes away very fast because arbitrageurs buy on the one where it's cheap and sell on the one where it's expensive, and that goes away, right? And the key thing with GBTC is that there's a long lag between when you can close the position on GBTC. And I think it wasn't BlockFi. So there was many people that were exploiting the fact that a lot of people were buying Bitcoin through GBTC simply because that was their easiest way to gain exposure. It's literally on the stock market. So the price, you buy one Bitcoin and you pay, 1.1, the price of, 10% more, or actually, I think it hit at 100% more. So arbitrageurs did take advantage of that by buying, selling GBTC and buying Bitcoin. And I believe what BlockFi did was BlockFi used, BlockFi didn't actually enter into those transactions. They were part of the lending of Bitcoin that facilitated that that type of arbitrage. So we see the premium going down. I think the reason the premium is going down is more fundamental, which is competition, right? As you said, there's the Canadian ETFs. It looks, there's all sorts of competition PayPal is competition. Yeah.
GBTC is a 2% management fee, plus the fact that the fund is not, it doesn't adjust effectively. The fund just, the fund has the Bitcoin and then you trade the shares of the fund. So it's not very efficient compared to the ETF competition. So I think you're completely right about the fact that this is competition driven. Where the BlockFi situation comes into place is BlockFi was a huge lender of Bitcoin. Now all of the people that were borrowing those Bitcoin are underwater on GBTC, and it's causing issues for BlockFi solvency. And we're seeing a digital currency group coming out and saying, hey, we're going to buy X amount of GBTC. We're seeing BlockFi announce another fundraise to recapitalize. We're seeing them close and reopen, new user signups and functionality on the app kind of around this news, which kind of confirms the fact that, yes, this GBTC kind of discount is actually capable of putting these large companies underwater.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there, CK. And so to help kind of round it out, basically, if you wanted to take advantage of the premium that existed before, I think what you would do is you would actually, there was like a 50K minimum or something like that, but you could deposit money with GBTC itself and be awarded the grayscale, the GBTC like tokens or, the security of it, right? But there was a 6-month lockup. So you would lock up the Bitcoins or the dollars, whatever you put in, and wait 6 months, and then you could sell. And so, you were kind of betting that the premium would still be there in 6 months. And so what ended up happening is that there were some people, I'm guessing, who took like a market neutral position where, they, let's say, locked up 50K of Bitcoins and then also took a 50K short on Bitcoin just so they could harvest that premium. And then when the premium disappears or goes negative, they now actually have a negative, situation. Like, they've lost money on that trade entirely. And so, I think by doing that, I can't speculate into what BlockFi was doing. It's a black box, but I feel like that could be another thing that was kind of a risk that they may have, had, is that maybe they had a market neutral position on Bitcoin itself while expecting this premium to still be there. And it just wasn't. And it still is not. So, to CK's point, I saw yesterday, or maybe it's 2 days ago, when Barry said that, DCG was planning to buy more GBTC on the market. I thought that was kind of a red flag too. I'm not sure, I hate to speculate. I'm not an expert in any of this, but it seemed a little weird. And so, I think CK's probably got the right narrative there with helping bring that, negative premium, the discount, kind of up to parity. I will say, one way that it'll regulate itself is people speculating that people will want to step in and bring it back to parity. And, if it's got a negative premium right now, you could just speculate that it won't be negative and just do it that way. But, that's risk. All this is risk. So it's a bit of a ramble, but those are my thoughts on it.
Is there any, my intuition tells me that Digital Currency Group and anyone else that's swooping in to buy GBTC is doing it simply to take advantage of the fact that it's underpriced. Zach Prince was on the Brink podcast, I think today. Yeah. And
the timing is impeccable, man. The timing is impeccable with all of this stuff.
I thought they recorded it based on the news. That was my impression. I don't see, my suspicions are not raised here. I don't see all these companies are, specifically BlockFi. They just raised $350 million, $3 billion. I don't think these guys are hurting.
Well, just because you raise money in a venture situation doesn't really mean that you're solvent. But the thing is that all of these companies that are rehypothecating Bitcoin, like, yes, they have the opportunity to scramble in cases of insolvency to get solvent, and they can do that with market measures like selling equity or whatever. That's fine, as long as they get their shit together. But what we're moving away from is a system where insolvent businesses just keep going, right? And there's no such thing as solvency. There's nothing tethering these businesses to reality. So yeah, hey, BlockFi offered a very lucrative position for people. A lot of their clients got caught in the trade, and they can use the market to maintain solvency and continue operating and continuing to operate that offer that opportunity. And that's fine, as long as they get their shit together. They don't, but everything works for their clients and people still give them their money. That's a totally fine outcome as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I see both what Ron and CK are saying. We don't know. This is speculation, but I agree that the timing is pretty interesting around all this stuff happening. But it could also be that they're just speculating on that discount going back to parity with Bitcoin price. So yeah, I think you're both valid, and it's hard to know what the real truth is. If I could throw out one thing that I've also been tracking, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of the conversation here, there's been maybe 4 now, maybe it was 3 different withdrawals from Coinbase of 12,000 Bitcoins at a time over the past like 10 days. Has anyone noticed that? Does anyone have any interesting takes on that?
You personally observed this, or was this like reported?
Yeah, well, so there's a couple sources. The one that I like to use is CryptoQuant, but they keep track of when there are really big withdrawals from exchanges. And I think they showed that like over the past, maybe it's like 2 weeks now, there have been like 4, or maybe it was 3 different 12,000 Bitcoin withdrawals off of Coinbase. And it's like, it's huge.
I heard it was Apple.
Is that true? Or are you
No.
like, have you heard
No.
something?
I heard that
I
too.
haven't
I
heard-
heard it was Apple and Netflix and Facebook and
Yes.
Google.
All the things.
If you tweet it, apparently it's true. Because that's what happened with Oracle.
Yeah, especially
Early-
if you're documenting Bitcoin.
Yes.
You know, I have to say, Bitcoiners are not great at fact checking tweets before smashing the retweet button. It is definitely a flaw.
I made a bet this morning with someone named Matt Odell that, or it was yesterday, it was before the Oracle and what was it, the earnings call. And I was like 80% sure that they were going to announce it. And, I guess, I don't know what bias you would call it, like my wishful bias. I don't know what you'd call it, but I was so hoping
Bullish
that
bias?
Larry bullish bias
Hopium.
was like I was overcoming my hopium internally. I would have lost so much money. I'm glad I did not make an official bet. Matt would have cleaned me out as usual. But
You know
whatever.
what? The thing is, okay, Matt was right about Oracle, but his bare ass was completely wrong about Tesla, because I was like, yo,
Yeah.
Tesla's buying Bitcoin. He was like, hell no, they're not. And I'm like, okay, we'll see. And then here we go. Tesla bought Bitcoin. So maybe I'm
Maybe
just
I'm
lucky.
just
I'm
my
gonna pat
time
myself on the
preference
back
is
again.
wrong. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Pat
no,
yourself.
A
You know-
lot
you
of Bitcoiners were very optimistic about Oracle.
Yeah, I mean, my gut here is that, first of all, I mean, 12,000 Bitcoin withdrawals happening like 3 or 4 times in a row. That's a whale accumulating for sure. That's a clear signal. You could trace them back to Tesla earlier. You could trace them back to MicroStrategy earlier.
Why wouldn't that be just Coinbase, managing their hot and cold wallet?
There's a different system for that. And like the guys I track, like, keep track of when Coinbase is, managing wallets and what those transactions look like versus actual withdrawals from the system. And it's a different thing. But what I was going to say is, like, we're at a point in the market where, the people, the CEOs of companies who have Bitcoin on their treasury are strongman CEOs that like are able to kind of get the board to do what they want to do. And I feel like we're still at that stage. And so my question, or the thing that I'm wondering, is like, how many more CEOs are out there right now who are the board will do what I say. I can, convince them myself. I'm a big believer in Bitcoin and I've got kind of the sway type of folks. And I just don't know, I'm sure there are some, but I don't know who those would be right now. My gut tells me that this could be Tesla buying more Bitcoin. I don't, this is pure speculation, but, the fact that Tesla is up over 50% on their first Bitcoin purchase makes me think that it's a really easy sell to go back at the board and say, let's, stick another 10, 20% into Bitcoin. Sorry if I just lagged there, but go on, Alex.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like Tesla are the kind of company who worry too much about these things. I think they have I think their main priority is probably like, and they're doing well with money. I think their main priority is to put the car in the hands of people.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But at the same time, I think that they said that they made more money off of their Bitcoin purchase in 2 weeks than they made, profit wise for the entirety of last year selling cars.
Well, I don't know if that was Tesla saying that or if that was just pundits making that observation.
Making
But
the
yeah,
observation.
hey, I think one of the very interesting things has been seeing Elon Musk kind of talk about Bitcoin on Twitter. And one of my favorite things was him kind of going back and forth with Peter Schiff about, Bitcoin being an innovation on just liquidity that doesn't melt away. It's just a new form of liquidity, is what he said. And if that's the mentality of the CEO and that's the mentality of the treasury, the whoever manages Tesla's treasury and their CFO, then why not put 100% of their cash in Bitcoin, just like Sailor? I mean, not to say that they will, but why not? At that point, if you just think it's better liquidity, then you should adopt the better technology, right?
Look, I like the theory on Tesla, but at that event that Michael Saylor did for corporate treasury, I consider the keynote speaker, Ross Stevens. I mean, he talked about a massive pipeline that they are working on of corporate and institutions that of all like insurance companies, pensions that are intending to buy. So could be Tesla, but there's a lot of other, I think we're at the beginning of a lot of buying by institutions.
Go ahead, Camila.
I was just going to say that it's interesting when you say that when the CEO has like the say or that big influence. I think they're really lucky because they're buying Bitcoin super cheap, like imagine in those board meetings having to try to tell people like, hey, we need to do this. And then people on the board shutting you down. At the end of the day, they are going to buy Bitcoin just at a higher price. So, and I'm totally okay with that too. Like, that's one of the benefits. The earlier you get, the more you benefit in terms of price. But if you're going to take longer to try to convince all of these people, it just sucks for your company because you will buy it, but it'll just be a lot more expensive and you'll have less of it than Tesla or MicroStrategy.
Yeah, I mean, you're channeling your inner Bitcoin Tina, I can tell, Camila. Have fun buying less Bitcoin at higher prices.
I mean, I keep stacking, so if I can stack before all those big companies can, I'm a happy girl.
So let's talk about, mass adoption, right? Part of mass adoption is people waking up to the current system. It's people realizing that they can save in Bitcoin more effectively. But that's a pretty big leap, right? Like that mentality is very far away from the existing mentality. We're seeing the majority of people kind of transition over from the trading perspective, which is, I think all of us would say is like the wrong way to interact with Bitcoin. Can we talk a little bit about the next 12 months, a lot of people are going to enter Bitcoin. Like, how do we steer them in the right direction? How do we help them adjust their mental framework? I mean, obviously Bitcoiners have been doing this for a long time. We've been getting better, but we're not quite there yet.
I have a view
Alex,
that's definitely
Joe,
not
Ron.
popular. I'll say something that is not popular. I actually think that people are focusing too much on hand holding Bitcoiners and pre-coiners. And I think the reason I got it when I got into Bitcoin, the reason I liked it so much was because there was no one putting a book in front of me and telling me read this, do this, and made me feel like in school. And I think I've learned a lot of valuable lessons by fucking up. And I don't think you can learn by other people's mistake. Like the valuable lessons, you have to do them yourself. So actually, I think we should let them, you have to lose some money. That's how you pop your cherry. That's when you become a Bitcoiner, when you lose some and you learn a valuable lesson. So I think we should do that. We should have a completely hands-off approach, which I know it's a completely unpopular point.
I
Let's jump
agree.
in.
I feel like getting wrecked is part of the way. However, if we can avoid that, I think that's a good thing. I have a personal friend who from day one, I luckily had a chance to talk to him about, holding your own keys. And he was very diligent about pulling Bitcoin he stacked off of Cash App onto his own green wallet. And his Cash App got hacked and they ended up spending like 700 fiat dollars out of his Cash App account, but they didn't have access to his Bitcoin because he literally week after week, anytime he stacked, he would immediately pull it off. I know that's kind of crazy with like current fees and everything, but That's one small example, but I
And no
agree with
fees
you,
on
Alex.
Cash App. They pay for them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay. But the overall thing is, yeah, you got to get wrecked. I think that's a real thing. It makes you have more skin in the game. But at the end of the day, if we can have some on ramps, I think that we're seeing a ton of education being built, and it's a different world than it was in 2017. So I applaud Camila for getting on TikTok and rolling up her sleeves. I'm not there. I'm scared. I'm terrified. I will not be there. But I think we're starting to see more established players get involved on YouTube as far as Bitcoin content and education. I hope we see that uptrend continue, but we're vastly outnumbered, but we're on the right side of history.
I think you deserve to get wrecked if you are stubborn AF, because I was the type of person that I was like, okay, let me read, let me educate, let me listen, let me hear these stories of people getting wrecked so that I don't lose money. Instead of losing money, let me just put it all into Bitcoin and be happy. So if you're stubborn though, and you feel like you know better than everyone else that has been on this journey for a while, you deserve to get wrecked, because you need to get humble and actually, learn and listen to people. And what sucks is people are so stubborn and they just keep repeating the wrong message every single day just because they don't want to admit, hey, I'm sorry, and let me take you down this right path. I hate those people. They suck.
You buy Bitcoin at the price you deserve.
It's amazing that I have friends because I talk about Bitcoin too much. But I find it defies an elevator speech. You can't, or elevator pitch, you can't, even when I go to Bitcoin meetups, I will encounter people who, they've owned Bitcoin for years. They don't understand the monetary revolution. I don't see any shortcut to slow hand-to-hand combat. Of course, the materials are getting better and better, and that's how that CT, Norwegian guy CT, and that's how Michael Saylor, they're leveraging these materials that Bitcoiners are building, and we have to keep building them to speed up that brain shift. And at some point, but at some point when Bitcoin is a much, much, much higher, there's just going to be like a flip for like the whole world where everyone just like, it stops being challenged. It's not any question anymore. But until we get to that point, we have a long way to go. We have a lot of people to convince.
Once again, we're just really early. A lot of people think that, this caught on, and it's like, no, guys, we are so early, and that's actually a really good thing.
I just want to reframe that. I don't want to say we have a lot of people to convince. A lot of people need to be convinced through the gravity of Bitcoin, and we can help them.
Yeah.
If well,
I mean, yeah. So something, and I think that this is a common cognitive dissonance, so maybe you guys want to chime in on it, but like this common cognitive dissonance is that Bitcoin's expensive, and part of that is driven by the fact that a lot of these people are not aware of Bitcoin's total addressable market. They see 57K Bitcoin, like, holy shit, Bitcoin's so expensive. They don't realize that the market that we're going after is $4 to $20 trillion. We don't know what the total store of value market is. Gold is like, let's just call it 8 trillion. So anywhere from $4 to $20 trillion is a potential TAM of Bitcoin. So, there's a long way to go from where we're at right now. We're sitting at just above 1 trillion. So, and I see Ron shaking his head like there's a lot more. I'm just saying, like, okay. But when people are like, oh wow, Bitcoin's is expensive, they don't realize the potential here. There's so much more to go. And that's on the bearish side, right? You call me bearish. I'm not saying this is my price prediction. I'm just saying, if you think Bitcoin is expensive, my bear take is that, hey, we have another 20x from here, potentially.
Okay. If that's your lower bound, okay.
You know what the problem I think it is that feeds into that narrative is when you have all of these exchanges that put Bitcoin and then these other shit coins right below it with like a lower price. So that's like something that they compare it to. Like they don't give Bitcoin that first class citizen type of treatment to where it's like this is so different from all these other altcoins. So people are going to compare it to all these other things that exist without really understanding the value that is there. And I think that's one of the reasons why people see it as expensive, because they have something to compare it to that in reality has no value.
I also think we all have this very crazy expectation of people understanding Bitcoin how we do, and clearly everyone here spends like way too much time on it. So I don't think most of the people will be able to understand Bitcoin as we do, and I don't think they'll ever get the First Citizen Act. It will just end up like, I don't know, things will change and they'll just use it. So I think that's a weird expectation. Is like, how many people know how their computer works, right? Like I don't even know, and I use it every day. So
I agree that we'd have to get to a tipping point, and then people they just take the narrative that everyone that they trust has, right?
The same people that hate Bitcoin today will be Bitcoin's strongest advocates in the future. The sheeple will get behind Bitcoin eventually.
Well, after they get wrecked and realize that this was the only way, I would hope so, right?
Yeah, economic reality has its way with, getting people to move along.
Friends are either going to be pissed off or very happy. It depends on when they listen to you.
So wait, back to Alex though.
yes, what about me? I didn't have anything else to say. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I agree. So like people are going to adopt Bitcoin when it makes the most sense for them. If there's going to be financial a massive financial upside, it's just going to be for those who are kind of entrepreneurial and take on some sort of risk and uncertainty. But at some point, it's just going to be a thing that's common sense. And yeah, hey, maybe it might not have a 20x potential, but it's not going to bleed value. It's going to be cash that works.
Yeah, and I think also this is like people mostly interact with products. They also interact with ideologies, but mostly with products. And I mean, look, I still think using addresses is very yuck, if you ask me. So it's still just so far away from being a pleasant experience, if you ask me.
Well, COVID and contactless free is kind of training everyone else to get onto the QR code level or playing field.
Yeah, honestly, the weirdest thing now is going to restaurants and not being handed a menu, but actually having to scan a QR code so you can see what you're going to be eating.
Yeah, we don't even have restaurants here, so okay.
I'm so sorry.
Wait, where are you dialing in from? Oh, you're in the UK, right?
Yeah. I can't even escape. That's why I don't even know if I
Martial
can
law house arrest.
That's exactly how it is. Yeah, I don't know if I could leave the country. So,
COVID in 2020 truly was the year of clarity. It showed us how free or not free we are, and the UK rude awakening, California rude awakening. So it truly was the year of clarity in my mind.
Even in the American South, we can go in and hold a menu with our hands.
Everyone realized how great the South was in the past, let's call it 8 months. I want to transition the conversation a little bit. This is something that will make Bitcoiners pretty happy, but might piss off Alex, surprisingly. Want to talk about OKCoin making another development donation and grant, this time to a Lightning developer, Anton Riard. We've seen OKCoin going hard to the paint with these grants. We've seen BitMEX. We've seen several other cash flow positive Bitcoin businesses do this as a form of, supporting the network as well as marketing and PR. I think this is exciting. You love to see cash flow positive businesses that owe Bitcoin their livelihood, reinvesting back into the protocol. So I like this news. I'm kind of curious, Alex, why do you kind of hate these kind of PR stunts or whatever? I'm kind of curious what your unpopular opinion is here.
Yeah, I'm the unpopular opinion guy. Well, I like to clarify that ever since I've got into Bitcoin, and this is for real, like every time I saw a donation address, I've always donated, right? So I do believe it makes sense to, if someone has an address somewhere or a pay name or something, if I use or I came across something, I always donate it. That being said, so why do I have a problem with this? Well, Bitcoin works on economic incentive and economic alignment, right? And Bitcoin is this really interesting mechanism that allows us to price things in, right? It's very real. Now, the thing is that we have this software that we interact with the network, right? And then somehow this software runs on ideology. So what's my problem with ideology? Well, ideology is very fragile, right? It doesn't matter that right now we all start let's say we start a Bitcoin core, a Bitcoin implementation, and we're all good people and we have all good ideologies, but sooner or later our ideologies are going to diverge. So we need a marketing mechanism to price in if what we're saying here makes sense or not. Bitcoin core, which again, there's some people there who do some work that no one else on the planet could do. So it's really good to see people are choosing to do this, right? But the thing is, like, Bitcoin core is run on ideology, right? There's no pricing mechanism. So that's why when I'm seeing those things, I'm happy for the people getting those things, but I don't think this is gonna work out. And I want to see something like Pierre Richard has this website, Bitcoin SDK, where people put money, and there's like you put up money if you want something to be developed or something like that. So I don't want to see something like that, because then you're gonna have then you're gonna know this is the correct software, if I could say so.
So like a market for development,
yeah,
for open source development.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. Because here's another thing right now. So let's say right now, like on a party when someone brings free beers, you can't tell them the beer is shit. The beer could be shit, but it's free. You can't complain about it. So it's the same thing with free software, right? You can't complain about it. And so far everything is fine because all the software is good. But you need a feedback loop. When you do something bad, you need the market to tell you're doing something bad. That's why my favorite companies in the space, Samurai Wallet and Wasabi Wallet. It's very simple. If those guys are doing a bad job, they don't make money. So there's no bullshit there. So I would want to see something like that, and I think that's gonna be beneficial.
I mean, like, I see what you're saying, but you can also zoom out and say that, hey, these exchanges are investing in things that are specifically pertaining to their business. OKCoin integrated Lightning. They're now investing in a Lightning developer. And there is a feedback loop, right? Because they benefit from Bitcoin existing, Bitcoin working. They're trying to add new functionality, and they want that functionality to be a certain way, so they're funding it. So I kind of see what you're saying. Like, hey, they're using marketing, they're doing all this stuff in order to kind of like gain clout by throwing around money. But I don't necessarily know if that turns Bitcoin into a bad product. Bitcoin has a really strict and thorough review process. Like, Bitcoin has like all of these things that will enable really like insane kind of like quality checks. And again, I do think that there is kind of like a direct incentive for these exchanges to fund things that matter to them. And maybe they're not funding things that matter to users as much as we'd like, but they're definitely funding things that matter to them.
I mean, first of all, what you said is really true, by the way. I just would want it to be more obvious. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry, Joe, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, I mean, these exchanges get to pick and choose who they give grants to. And I've been tracking it pretty closely over the past year and a half. And man, I mean, it's pretty interesting. I mean, this is not Antoine's first grant from OKCoin. So evidently he's developing something that OKCoin gives a shit about, which is fascinating. But to your point, Alex, I think that some kind of market being established is pretty interesting idea. And I would definitely welcome that. But I mean, as a selfish bastard, I feel like, I like this idea of these big ass companies dumping money on devs. I think that's a net positive for Bitcoin. And I think that these grants are so small and they're almost laughable in size compared to what, their payroll is and some of the other outreach that probably some of these companies do. So I would challenge anyone who is part of these company treasuries to or finance department to do more, because it's bullshit. And I mean, these are tiny, tiny, tiny grants compared to how much these exchanges make. So support the devs. That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, again, I support it. As I told you, I support every time I had an option. I support him, and I'm all for that.
I know. I don't think that you're not supporting the devs, but yeah, I don't think that in my conversation with you, it's that that should be their path to livelihood, is expecting donations.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's so. So here's the thing right now. I think if you look at all the apps that we have here, literally Samurai Wallet and Wasabi, funny enough, the ones who hate themselves the most, those are the only real products. Everyone else just has nice-ish products. And I think the only reason they have a nice product is because if they do not have a good product, they will, if people don't pay for their coin joins, that's it. So I think this is good, and this is gonna make people work on stuff, but I don't think we're gonna get the products that are gonna move the needle. Another good example of this, Bitcoin Core said BIP47, the pay name one, doesn't make any sense. And there's some valid arguments, but let's not get into them. Well, Samurai Wallet said, fuck you guys, we're gonna put this here and we're gonna run it on our stack. And at the end of the day, I want to see more stuff like that. And again, I think that's what improves at a user level. But again, I think it's great that these people are getting money, if you ask me. If I'd have more money, probably I would donate to them.
It seems to me every one of these initiatives or funding for the developers is additive to it can't hurt. It can never, each new developer that's getting funded, they can't do damage, and they can help. I don't think,
sorry if it sounds like that. I don't think there's damaging. I was just trying to say what I think this would be the most efficient thing, and I don't want to see that. But I don't think it's no damage in any way. Sorry if it came off like that. It's not my position at all.
Anyone else have an opinion to add to OKCoin, other exchanges, other cash flow positive businesses contributing to Bitcoin? I mean, hey, I'm not a Bitcoin OG, but I was here in 2017, 2018, even 2019, where lots of negative opinions were being spread about how Bitcoin dev funding was going to end, and what's going to happen to the protocol, and it's going to die, and no one's going to take care of it. I mean, I think that this, as well as other actions by exchanges and other companies throughout the 2020s and 2021 kind of, prove opposite that's not the case.
Yeah, and what's cool is that if one company is doing, and let's say they are getting clout for it, maybe other companies are going to do it just to get clout as well. But at the end of the day, it's also helping get these donations to these developers. So everyone has their own reason to do things. But at the end of the day, if it does support Bitcoin developers, then that's a good thing, in my opinion.
I feel like everything in Bitcoin comes back to its power to align incentives. And, these corporations aren't being virtuous by funding developers. It's, I would guess, maybe it's marketing. In a lot of cases, it's probably the best way for them to build the insider knowledge about the protocols that enable them to really fine tune their, whatever their goals are with it.
Yeah, I'm just very skeptical of free products, as I told you. And again, this is my take. So that's why the only products that I could look that work good are Samurai Wallet and whatever. And they didn't do that with donations. They did that by charging money and getting paid by their customers. So that's why I'm just a bit skeptical of these things. But I could understand. I understand the debate. Why the point is debatable.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know about free products. Again, these exchanges make money, and then they rely on an open source infrastructure that then they need to maintain, right? So they either do that by hiring developers or by giving grants. So, I mean, I just don't know if it's necessarily free products. And that's why we're not seeing cash flow negative businesses fund developers. We're only seeing cash flow positive businesses. Yeah, some of them might do it because of like, hey, we're gonna support Bitcoin, but that's just not the vast majority, right? That's a tiny majority. And I think that, if you zoom out, personally, a reason why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin is because I think Bitcoin aligns incentives. I think that when you support the Bitcoin ecosystem, it comes back to you and vice versa. And I mean, if you look at the current system, it constantly needs stimulus, it constantly needs debt, it constantly needs debt, all this kind of stuff. And that just doesn't exist in Bitcoin. It's just, hey, you like Bitcoin, you hold Bitcoin, you're going to show Bitcoin, and everything is kind of like is kind of planted on that kind of action.
And don't forget taxation. There's a lot of protocols out there that essentially tax their users or their holders to pay for developers. I mean, it's a blessing that Bitcoin doesn't need that. And maybe it's not a blessing. It simply is. It's the powerful incentive alignment.
What else should we talk about? What's hot? We can keep going down this rabbit hole. We got another like 15 minutes on the show. But I'm curious what you guys are thinking about. What's the most important news that happened this week for y'all?
Well, are we gonna go all show without even like offhandedly mentioning this Beeple $69 million Christie's auction house sale? I mean, it's not Bitcoin, but it's right next door, and that's pretty crazy. Anyone have any takes on that?
Good for Bitcoin. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my take would be like, first of all, talk about like where the deep pockets sit, right? The people who like to interact with a Christie's auction house are not, retail investors by any stretch. And for them to, speculate on a digital product that only exists digitally, you hear people talk about Bitcoin as like, oh, I can't touch it, so it doesn't exist, right? Well, it's like, all right, there's that argument kind of blown up in its face when you have the third, isn't it? He like now the third wealthiest artist in the world is a solely digital artist now. I mean, it's insane. And so, I think this is just another notch and another step towards the digitization of kind of everyone's lives. And I mean, obviously, Bitcoin is the currency that enables all of that. But I guess that's my take.
Who wants to jump in?
I'll jump in. I fight myself on all of the hot crypto topics du jour. The DeFi and the NFTs and the ICOs, and even just altcoins generally, right? It's like, if I'm not open-minded to these things, then it's kind of like I'm being the same thing. I'm committing the same sin that people I preach Bitcoin to are committing, right? So I try and open my mind. NFTs, I don't get it. I don't get it. It feels bubble, like a pure bubble.
Definitely feels like a bubble to me too. Yeah, I mean, I guess I should also add that in. It's like, they actually bought a cryptographic signature of the art, but they didn't buy the art itself. So
the lack of connection.
I'm sure they bought the art itself too for 69 million. I'm in Christie's auction house. I'm sure they got the physical Beeple too.
Well, but that wouldn't be the Beeple. That would be a print of the Beeple, piece of art. So
yeah, that they own the private key to.
Yeah.
I had a recent thought about this, and by the way, I completely agree with this NFT nonsense, because again, this is the biggest problem in the world. You have things in real world and in the digital world, and that's the problem Bitcoin is trying to solve. So of course, but here's what I realized: if you would have virtual worlds like a VR thing, I think that's where NFT would make sense. If you create only an NFT that only exists in the virtual world, like a painting there, and the world enforces itself through the blockchain, then they would actually make sense, right? Because then you wouldn't have the problem of linking it with reality. So maybe that's actually, and here, how we used to say Bitcoin is better than gold? then that's gonna be better than art as far as the VR goes.
I mean, that's if the majority of the world lived in that, and I don't see the crossover happening. Because I mean, to be honest, I think Bitcoin is going to tear us away from the digital world to some degree because it's going to set us free. But that's just my take.
Well, I think too, some of those things could be built, on Bitcoin, basically. So it's not even, worrying about using these other chains or anything like that. I mean, it's just about like, what can you creatively do with a digital scarcity that's enforced by the Bitcoin proof of work system that is the most robust system to verify knowledge on the internet that there is. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have a clear take, but I just thought we'd be remiss if we didn't at least offhandedly mention the fact that a $69 million digital piece of art was just bought today by a dude who loves Bitcoin.
Do we know who the buyer was?
No, the rumor was Justin Sun, but apparently that's false. So we do not know who the buyer is.
God, that'd be hilarious. It was
Justin
Sun.
hates money.
Or he loves it because he just knows how to scam idiots out of their money.
Yeah, true. Dude, I feel like this is, if you listen to Saylor, I mean, his whole thing is about dematerialization. This is dematerializing art. It's a hard pill to swallow. Not sure I'm all in on it. I think it's cool, but I mean, obviously blockchains are for money, but I mean, it feels like there's something here, but I don't know, guys. It feels scammy. It feels kind of slimy. I see a lot of bullshit on Twitter about it. I feel way too many like people getting really hyped about, buying these NFTs. I lurk on Clubhouse and hear people hyping them up. But I mean, props to people. He's been creating every day for like 5 years, cranking something out. I mean, he's a true creator and he's a badass. And I think that like overall net positive for creators and moving the needle forward for art creation. So I think it's pretty badass, but I'm still just kind of like, what the heck does this mean for Bitcoin? I'm not sure. I feel good about it, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I think it was 5,000 every days. So that would be like 15 years, I think. Pretty crazy amount of time spent.
Damn. You have that kind of conviction, you're going to be a fucking master. And it's like his mastery is paying off. So like to anyone out there who wants to make money, be a fucking master.
That's like,
I mean, yeah, no, Camila, I agree. That is the perfect message. And honestly, I think that's like, okay, whatever you want to say about Ethereum, it's a fractal off of Bitcoin, and like life, society, business, it's all going to be fractals off of Bitcoin at some point in the future. And I mean, if the Bitcoin future is everyone is driven by proof of work, putting in the work and getting rewarded fairly for it, like then that's the whole reason of doing this whole thing, of pushing this message.
it's
It's just tough.
Yeah, the scammy aspect of it, that is just like, because some people don't know any better, like they'll listen to a name like Gary Vee talk about NFTs, they'll get into it without even knowing what they're getting into, and then like people take advantage of that vulnerability, so it's just like, it sucks.
Well, yeah, it feels like a get rich quick scheme. These places exist, the narrative exists that you're going to get rich off of NFTs, and it's like no one's going to buy the shit after you buy it. Like there's no liquidity, there's no market for this. So anyway, it feels weird.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. Again, I wish that Tommy could chime in, but I feel like NFTs are both this like revolution that is here to stay, but also the hype here is it's for bad investments, right? And as a Bitcoiner, Bitcoiners really fucking care about investment advice. I'm sorry, you can nod your head the other way, but there's nothing that Bitcoiners care more than giving the best fucking investment advice ever and getting you to listen to the best investment advice ever. So yeah, of course, NFTs, 99% of them are going to be bad investments compared to Bitcoin. 99% of everything is a bad investment compared to Bitcoin, and 100% of everything is trending to zero in terms of Bitcoin. So, I mean, that is an economic reality that the world is going to have to just like deal with for, ever. And there's a very few portion of people that even understand that.
Can anyone speak to the one argument that like I struggle with, and I hope someone can like set me straight here on this stream, is like the proof of ownership or proof of creation that a blockchain could give. And the one argument that I can hear, I was sitting in a black billionaire Bitcoiners on Clubhouse, and they were talking about Black people in America have just been so disenfranchised through creation over the past century. Like this could be something that actually gives credits to what they create moving forward. And I'm not suggesting this is a good thing or a bad thing, but it was like the one thing that I struggle with, like, something being put on a ledger that it was created by XYZ.
To me, this gets into the concept of when people were talking about blockchain, not Bitcoin, or people were talking about putting chain of, like, I don't know, let's just say vaccination chain of custody on blockchain. It's like, well, why not just use a database? Like, what's the advantage there? When you have a disconnect between the real world and the chain, I feel like, for example, CryptoKitties, which was, I mean, they were NFTs. It wasn't art, but it was NFT. They were non-fungible tokens. They were unique items being traded, but they were intrinsic to the Ethereum chain. So to me, it kind of makes sense. I'm not saying it's a revolution, but it can have credibility if people care about it, right? But I don't see that when you're just signing something that is in the real world and saying that someone else owns it now. You really, someone on Twitter is ready. A few people have said you're buying an autograph of the person that created the art. I haven't delved deeply. This might be a naive take. The thing where I get concerned is that, or it's not a concern actually, this might be a thing, right? This, again, I think it needs to be built into the token itself, but it confuses the narrative of Bitcoin. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's not, it's might be another revolution, but it's not a monetary revolution. And I think people confuse things that have the same rails as Bitcoin. The idea of, you sign something, you get an address from someone and you sign something and give it to them. Those rails, they put it all in the same bucket. But I feel like I agree with Camila that, CoinMarketCap should have a market cap page for Bitcoin and a different one for all the other coins, because it's just not in the same category.
Y'all should check out acid-com. Big fan. And they put Bitcoin next to equities. So, and Bitcoin is crushing, of course. Yes, from an investment advice perspective, from a protecting noobs perspective, yeah, all this stuff is going to wreck idiots who don't do their own research. But the reality is that a lot of people are being exposed to cryptographic UX, to blockchain UX. And, if someone bought a motherfucking NFT, guess what? They know how to use a Bitcoin wallet. I guarantee that. They know how to use a Bitcoin wallet. So everything is good for Bitcoin. And we need to move people from their fiat mentalities and, DeFi, NFTs, all this stuff is skeuomorphic. It looks like what the world looks like right now, but on blockchain rails. And that's just an incremental step closer to Bitcoin. So, I personally think mass adoption. I personally think, how do we how do we change mass psychology? And it is incremental steps, and it's going to take some confusing incremental innovations in order to get everyone there.
What I thought was super funny, well, it wasn't funny to me at first, but then I found it kind of funny, was when Jack was selling his one tweet. And then all of the Bitcoiners started losing their mind, like, whoa, what are you doing? This is so weird, blah, 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 blah. And then later he's like, oh, I'm going to take all of the profits, convert it to BTC, and then donate it. And that to me was just like, well, yeah, that's what a lot of these people are doing, is that they're selling their stuff in Ethereum, but then they don't want to keep these ETH tokens. They're converting everything to just get more Bitcoin. And that to me is like a huge point of why a lot of people are doing these things. They just want to get more Bitcoin.
Fucking facts. Why do anything else? Who wants to jump in? Any last takes? No? All right, guys. I think it's time for the last word. We got this last 10 minutes here before it's getting pretty late over on the East Coast. I know that Alex is dialing in from, the European coast, which is even later. So, Alex, I'm going to pass it back to you and allow you to retire first. But what's your last word? Why don't you give a shout out to the audience? Tell people what they want to hear.
What do people want to hear? Yeah, if I would want to say something, I think actually people should start being so cautious in their Bitcoin journey, and I think they should take a bit more risk. And I don't think they should think this Bitcoin thing is like special or anything. I think they should understand that they are the special people. This is just an object at the end of the day. I mean, Bitcoin changed my life and whatever. Don't get me wrong, but it's like a sword. It's not about the sword. There's nothing special about a sword. It's special about you. So I would want a bit more people, to understand that the whole point of this is to make your life 10 times better, not to make your stack 10 times bigger. Which there's some correlation. Don't get me wrong. But I think people should be a bit more courageous and take risks. And I mean, you have the biggest opportunity in a lifetime. So, if you want to change the world or something, do it now, because you have so much asymmetric information. And if you're like gonna be like 10 years back from now when this is happening, do you all you want is to remember you did is press a button on an app, or you did something to change the world. So I think that's a more crazy thing to aspire, if you ask me.
Fucking love it. Take action. All right, let's go to Ron.
I don't really have any closing thoughts. I actually reviewed some of the past Bitcoin Magazine pods, and I didn't get this far to know you asked this. I am bullish, and I am on Twitter at plan on plan B.
All right, bullish, and follow Plan on Plan B on Twitter. All right, let's go to Camila.
I just want to thank you guys for having me. This has been super, super cool. I know we booked this back in like February, and it's cool to finally be back on. I just want to let people know, and this is like my main message, we're still really early. We're super, super early. So don't be afraid to jump in. Don't let the numbers scare you. Educate yourself on what Bitcoin is, because it truly is life-changing. It can change your life. It can change your kid's life, your grandkids' life. So just jump on, because you're going to have a lot more fun. And I'm super excited to see you guys on Bitcoin 2021 Miami. You guys have no idea how stoked I am. And for everyone that can't make it, I'm still going to be sending you all of my positive vibes. And hopefully we get to a point where there's no stupid restrictions and governments aren't stupid, and we can all meet each other and just have a blast. Bitcoin is the best party in the world. It seriously is.
Let's go. Join the party. Let's move over to the maestro of the party, Bran. What's your last word?
Super excited for Bitcoin 2021. A couple last words. First off, I just looked it up. Y'all remember the Banksy art piece that like self-shredded after it got the girl with the balloon? That sold for $1.4 million at Christie's. So, just to put that sale of 69 million in perspective, that's like a lot more. So wanted to start by saying that, because I was looking that up because I was just curious. This is a huge, huge freaking sale. Also, Bitcoin is like, it feels like we're in this moment where, we're all in a bull market. We all know it's happening, and like, no one's steering the ship kind of thing. And we're all just kind of, like enjoying the ride on, right? But this thing's going to get nuts. And like, we're just in the beginning of this year, and we probably have all year for this thing to continue to ride up. So, you know, continue to be on the lookout. There's going to be crazy people jumping in. I don't know who made those giant Coinbase withdrawals. You know, I'm going to stick by my assumption that it could have been Tesla again, but we'll see. And yeah, I mean, what a beautiful world. It's spring. Spring has sprung in Nashville, Tennessee. It feels great outside. So, you know, I got to go outside a little bit today, and yeah, life is good. So catch me on Twitter at BranBTC, and I'll pass it on to the Joe Rodgers.
Glad to be here. I just want to say the state hates you. Central banking, fuck off. Everyone take your sovereignty back. Stack sats, keep learning. No, you can't watch my phone. And everyone just be sovereign, be a Bitcoiner. Let's go.
Let's go. Hey, make sure to go get your ticket to Bitcoin 2021, b.tc/conference. Use promo code Satoshi to get 10% off. And to the panel, thank you so much for joining us. This is a great conversation, and I'm just hyped on life. And the best thing about Bitcoiners is Bitcoiners are hyped on life. They're optimistic, they're energetic, and everyone else, they're down in the dumps. Like, get on the happy train. Buy some freaking Bitcoin. Peace. Roll the commercial, Tommy.